Donald Trump threatens military action against Nigeria, raising tensions and opening a new stage of geopolitical confrontation. Donald Trump reignited a global crisis by saying the United States might attack Nigeria. He accused the Nigerian government of ignoring the killing of Christians. His statement raised fears that Washington could once again intervene militarily in African nations. The controversy began when Trump accused Nigeria's government of allowing massacres and promised a strong response. Meanwhile, reports of attacks, rapes, and executions in villages and churches reinforced the image of a country out of control and divided by religion. Trump is accused of using religion to project political strength in the United States and expand his global influence. Inside Nigeria, chaos mixes politics, religion, and power. Extremist groups spread, public security collapses, and Washington reacts as if it were a war zone. The result is a situation that keeps the whole planet on alert. Amid the chaos, Trump uses the theme of protecting Christians to reinforce his tough leader image. The speech pleases his religious base but causes discomfort abroad. Nigeria tries to defend itself but is becoming increasingly isolated. Trump's statements increase global uncertainty and push world powers to reposition themselves on the diplomatic chessboard. Tell me how far faith justifies extermination and how urgent you think an invasion like this really is. Do you believe Trump's version or Nigeria's? Without fear of censorship or judgment, answer honestly, because that's the question pushing Nigeria toward a clash with the world's biggest power. Just a reminder, this report is based on news from Sky News, The New York Times, BBC, The Guardian, Al Jazeera, Sputnik, RT News, and Telegram. But before we get into the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription means a lot and helps you stay updated on every story about the raging nations. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up to help this project grow even more. Trump ordered the Pentagon to prepare to attack Nigeria, saying the local government allows the killing of Christians. The order put the world on alert and further strained relations between Washington and Abuja, which were already tense. He warned that the United States would cut all financial and military aid if Nigeria didn't act against Islamic groups. He also promised that if they attacked, it would be quick, strong, and sweet to completely eliminate what he called religious extremists. After that, Washington placed Nigeria on the list of countries that violate religious freedom. According to the US government, Abuja failed to protect Christian communities and allowed violent factions to advance. That increased pressure on the country. Trump said the United States will not stand by watching atrocities against Christians. He said it's America's duty to defend the innocent and ensure victims' blood is not ignored. His speech made the situation even more tense. He promised to eliminate every responsible cell and warned that Nigeria will feel the full weight of American power. His statement frightened allies and reignited fears of a direct intervention with unpredictable consequences across West Africa. The United States intensifies sanctions and suspends aid, seeking greater political and strategic control in West Africa. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu responded by calling Trump's accusations dangerous and baseless. He said, "Nigeria persecutes no one for their faith and guarantees freedom of worship for all, regardless of religion or background." The government spokesperson stressed that the country's violence isn't just religious. He said both Christians and Muslims suffer and that reducing it to faith ignores broader causes like poverty, land disputes, and long-standing ethnic rivalries. The suspension of US aid raised alarms among diplomats. Embassies began assessing risks of economic and military sanctions, while the African Union called for immediate dialogue between both countries before the crisis gets out of control. Security experts say even a limited US offensive could destabilize the entire region. The presence of foreign troops would increase ethnic tensions and strengthen extremist groups exploiting public resentment. The big question experts ask is how far Trump's accusations truly justify a military intervention. They also wonder how many new tragedies this could bring to a continent already scarred by decades of wars, coups, and broken promises. These questions remain unanswered. President Tinubu rejects foreign interference and calls for dialogue to preserve Nigeria's sovereignty and diplomatic balance. The reports of the attacks are horrifying. Armed groups storm churches during Mass, throw explosives, and open fire on those trying to escape. In minutes, the place turns into an execution site. Survivors say the noise is deafening. One of the worst massacres took place at St. Francis Xavier Church. Bombs were thrown during Mass, and gunmen surrounded the exits. Many died trying to escape. The event revealed how vulnerable worshippers are even in the most sacred places. These attacks also happen in villages at night. Militias arrive with rifles and machetes, invade homes, and kill entire families. Churches are burned as fires spread quickly. Those who try to run are chased down and killed by the attackers. In some regions, the attacks are so well planned, they resemble military operations. They surround farms, shoot those trying to flee, then invade homes. Bodies are left on roads, and entire villages vanish from the map within hours. The terror is even worse for women. Many are kidnapped, raped, and killed soon after. Some become hostages, others are executed publicly to spread fear. Rehook. In the next sections, you'll see how this became systematic and even more brutal. Washington's posture reshapes African alliances and places Nigeria at the center of the global struggle for influence. In remote areas, girls are taken to camps where they are assaulted for days. The attackers film everything to intimidate other communities. Few manage to escape. Those who survive carry physical and psychological scars that never fade. The weapons used in these attacks show their level of organization. They use automatic rifles, machine guns, and improvised bombs. They arrive in convoys of motorcycles and trucks, attacking from multiple sides to block any escape. The pattern is always the same. Explosions first, then gunfire, and finally fire. Churches, schools, and homes turn to ashes. When security forces arrive, it's too late. Only bodies, debris, and desperate families digging improvised graves remain. Experts say there's coordination between radical groups like Boko Haram and ISWAP. They share fighters, weapons, and intelligence. The government's lack of control over rural areas leaves these regions completely at the mercy of the attackers. While the government tries to downplay the numbers, people live in despair. For every reported massacre, there are many untold. Terror silently advances through rural Nigeria, leaving a trail of blood, trauma, and anger. Trump's discourse strengthens his domestic base and deepens political divisions on an international scale. Mass executions have become routine. Men, women, and children are lined up and shot. Their bodies are then burned to erase evidence. The few survivors tell horror stories the world still refuses to hear. Witnesses say the attacks always follow the same script. Groups of 20 or 30 men invade at dawn, fire long bursts, use grenades, and seal exits with fire. Hundreds of families vanish overnight without a trace. Captured women endure unspeakable torture. They're raped repeatedly, kept tied up, and mutilated before dying. In some cases, they're left agonizing as a warning to nearby villages. Fear spreads much faster than the news. Authorities admit they can't respond. Soldiers arrive days later only to collect bodies. The population now distrusts local forces, accused of turning a blind eye or even cooperating with militias. Chaos seems completely out of control. This sequence of attacks, with heavy weapons, rapes, and total destruction, raises an inevitable question. Is this spontaneous chaos or part of something bigger and organized? The next sections show who really controls this war and why it continues. The crisis exposes growing competition among powers disputing economic and strategic influence across Africa. Nigeria faces a conflict with no end in sight. In the northeast, Boko Haram and its 𝘌x𝘌cut𝘌d faction keep bombing and carrying out suicide attacks. In the center, herders and farmers fight over land, destroying entire villages in the process. These groups may have different goals, but they share the same tactic: spreading fear and seizing territory. The conflict mixes religion, politics, and survival. The government tries to respond, but violence keeps growing out of control. Organized crime has also joined the conflict. Armed gangs control highways and survive on kidnappings. The ransom money funds new attacks, and the cycle repeats. Entire communities live under threat with no protection or hope left. Soldiers trying to fight back say everything is lacking: ammunition, vehicles, and intelligence. Many remote areas are completely without state presence. Open borders make it easy for heavy weapons from Libya and Sudan to flow in, worsening the situation. Given that, a possible American intervention seems even more dangerous. Even a quick strike would have unpredictable effects. One wrong move could throw all of West Africa into a new era of uprisings and uncontrollable conflicts. China and Russia closely monitor developments, strengthening their diplomatic presence and trying to counter Washington's pressure. Nigeria is in total collapse. The country faces terrorism, ethnic conflict, and organized crime at the same time. The government tries to respond, but its forces are exhausted, fighting on multiple fronts with no structure, each region waging its own war. In rural areas, despair has become routine. Entire villages are abandoned. Families flee to makeshift camps with no food or shelter. The UN estimates millions of internally displaced people living in conditions resembling war zones. Boko Haram and 𝘌x𝘌cut𝘌d continue attacking mercilessly. They kidnap civilians, attack military bases, and enforce brutal laws. Women accused of blasphemy are executed publicly. Those who try to flee are killed as an example. Arms and drug trafficking fuel all this violence. Trucks cross borders, carrying rocket launchers and landmines. In exchange, groups gain money and control of trade routes across the Sahel, which is now completely unstable. Nigeria becomes a global focal point and a symbol of the fragile balance between sovereignty and foreign influence. Trump turned the idea of protecting persecuted Christians into a central part of his political speech. Among U.S. religious groups, he became a symbol of strength and faith, while abroad, fear grows that this rhetoric could justify new wars. By promising military action, Trump presents himself as the leader defending Christian values beyond U.S. borders. That helps him domestically, but creates a dangerous dilemma. When religion becomes a tool of foreign policy, the entire world feels the impact. Nigeria tries to prove it's still a plural nation, but international pressure keeps rising. The government fears losing investments, facing sanctions, and isolation. Meanwhile, Trump's religious rhetoric keeps gaining strength and dividing opinions abroad. Russia, China, and the European Union watch everything closely but avoid taking sides. Every mistake by Washington opens space for them to get closer to Africa, and no one wants to lose influence on a continent that has become the stage of a new global power struggle. Tension rises every day. If the United States attacks, Russia and China could respond unpredictably. If they stay out, they lose credibility. The world watches as faith and politics mix in a barrel ready to explode. Trump is accused of turning religious discourse into a political banner, amplifying tensions and reshaping global power alliances. Trump's stance also has an electoral calculation. He knows that speaking about protecting persecuted Christians secures support from influential churches and pastors. It's a strong, simple message that reinforces the idea only he dares to face global evil. His words echo even in the African diaspora. Some Nigerians abroad see hope in American support, while others fear their country could become a stage for a war driven by foreign interests. No one knows what might come next. Diplomats warn Nigeria's image is hanging by a thread. Even without invasion, the label of an intolerant country already scares investors and partners. Fear of sanctions has driven companies away and frozen key commercial and military deals. On the geopolitical stage, every US move is watched. Russia and China try to present themselves as alternative allies, offering economic deals and military support to Nigeria. That heightens rivalry with Washington and makes tensions even worse. The standoff is now total. If the United States advances, they trigger a continental crisis. If they retreat, they lose credibility. In the next parts, we'll see how this power struggle repeats in other countries where Christians are persecuted and the world looks away. American rhetoric reignites historical rivalries and pushes Africa into a new cycle of strategic disputes. Similar situations happen in countries like Pakistan, Eritrea, and North Korea, where Christians are imprisoned, tortured, or killed. Authoritarian governments use religious laws to silence minorities and maintain control, while the rest of the world does nothing. Compared to Nigeria, a clear pattern appears. The West only reacts when it has something to gain. Where there's no political or economic interest, silence prevails. The so-called defense of faith becomes another power move disguised as humanitarian concern. Even so, the Nigerian government insists there's no institutional persecution. Tinubu says all lives have equal value and that the country invests in peace and anti-extremism programs. But international distrust keeps growing. Reality on the ground is very different from the speech. New attacks happen every week, and in the poorest villages, fear is constant. People live between the terror of armed groups and total disbelief in the state, which seems unable to protect its people. Nigeria's case became a mirror of the modern world, a mix of faith, politics, and power where no one is innocent. Between protecting innocence and using religion as a weapon, the question returns: how far does faith justify war? The West is accused of reacting selectively to African crises, reinforcing perceptions of inequality and political dependence. This whole story shows a country in collapse, where faith, politics, and violence intersect constantly. From church massacres to US invasion threats, Nigeria has become the center of the debate on religious freedom and national sovereignty. Trump turned the defense of persecuted Christians into a government banner. By threatening military action, he reignited the dilemma between protecting innocence and using force as a form of global influence. His speech still divides the world. Behind the headlines, the scene is brutal. Women assaulted, villages destroyed, and a powerless government. Nigeria has become the living portrait of the collapse between faith and security, where surviving is the only possible act of resistance. The world remains divided. Some see US action as a moral duty. Others think it would repeat past mistakes and create more chaos. The line between justice and domination has never been thinner, and danger never closer. Nigeria emerges as the central stage of the global struggle for power and diplomatic influence among great powers. Tell me, how far does faith justify extermination? And what urgency do you see for an invasion like this? Do you believe Trump's narrative or Nigeria's government? Without fear of censorship or judgment, answer sincerely, because that doubt is what's pushing Nigeria toward confrontation with the world's greatest power. Thanks so much for sticking around until the end of the video. You're awesome, and I really appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any updates on the raging nations. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up to help this project grow even more.